Yes, thank you, Wendy, and welcome everyone. And I do appreciate you being with us on this presentation. I hope that you're not feeling like this young lady is right now, but I do have a question to begin our presentation. When you stand before an audience, be it a small group at work or maybe it's even a large class setting, how long is it before you begin to see something like this? That is, how long until there is the first lapse of attention in the listeners? Now, I've asked individuals before, and I have found that most individuals say, oh, maybe it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like this. But surprisingly, there was some research that came out just recently that showed that it is 30 seconds until individuals have their first lapse of inattention. That's incredible. 30 seconds and individuals begin to lapse out of attention. In fact, what this research showed was the frequency of the lapses is much more than we currently thought. The first spike in this inattention lapse occurs about 30 seconds into your lecture or your talk, and then they kind of come back after about a minute or so, and then the next spike occurs at about 4.5 to 5.5 minutes into your lecture or talk, and then there are lapses about every 2 minutes or so after that. But the length of the lapse is much less than we thought. Most of the time when individuals lapse into inattention, they come back to attention after about a minute or less. So I've taken that information and mapped out about the first 15 minutes or so of this presentation, and this is what I came up with. Some of you have probably already lapsed into inattention, but you'll come back in about a minute or so. And then there'll be several minutes in there that you may be listening, but then there's that normal lapse 2 at about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and then you'll come back about 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and on we go. So that's not a lot of time in which to try to get the attention of the listeners and have them stick with you. So these lapses occur more frequently than we thought, but very short breaks in attention were really more common than longer breaks. However, the research also showed that there are fewer attention lapses when there are questions that are interspersed or even during demonstrations. So what I have built into our presentation today is a series of questions for you. And even though you're not actually going to be answering these through a polling feature, but you can be thinking in your own mind what the answer may be. And anytime there is a question, it's going to be preceded with a slide like this. So let's begin, shall we? In this webinar, we're going to be talking about what we simply call Authentication 101. We're going to be exploring different types of authentication credentials, passwords, facial recognition, fingerprint scanners, two-factor authentication, and some others. These are the things that we use to log into our smartphones and our computers. We'll look at the strengths and weaknesses of these, along with some of the new types of authentication that has been introduced. And we'll have some recommendations at the end about which ones are best and how best to use them. So let's begin by looking at this picture of what appears to be two identical iPhones. However, upon closer examination, we'll see, oh, one of those is a real iPhone, but one of those is a knockoff iPhone. We could say one's a real one and one's a fake one. And when we talk about real as opposed to fake, we could say we're talking about something that is authentic as opposed to something that is an imposter. So authentication is really the proof of something being genuine, being the real item, if you would. And in the IT world, the phrase authentication credentials is often used. This is a term that is used when we want to verify the genuineness of the user. Almost anybody could sit down at a computer system, but we want to make sure that only the genuine person then has access to what is on that system or the network or even beyond. So when we talk about authentication credentials, we're talking about verifying the genuineness of the user. Now, there are many different authentication credentials that can be used out there in the IT world that I can present to the computer to prove my genuineness. But essentially, all of these credentials can be classified into 5 different categories. And the categories are, I might authenticate myself based on something that uniquely I know. If I know something and no one else knows it, then that can serve to prove that I am the authentic, I am the genuine person and not an imposter. A second type of authentication credential is something that you have. If I possess something and you don't have it, then again, I can prove that I am the authentic person. A third category is that of something that you are. If you are unique in a particular aspect, maybe of your face, your fingerprint, even your voice, and we'll talk about those a little while, then that can prove to be an authentication credential. A fourth category may be something that you uniquely do that no one else can do. And the fifth category is it may be somewhere you are where others are not. So, of all the authentication credentials that we use to present to a computer system to prove that we are the genuine person and we need to have access to what we've been given access to, of all these authentication credentials, the one that we use most commonly, of course, is the first one there, something you know. And that leads us into talking about passwords. So the password is obviously something that I know that no one else should know. Now, we need to pause right here and say, well, why in the world would we talk about passwords? Aren't passwords yesterday's technology? Aren't they being replaced today with facial recognition and fingerprint and all these other types of what we call biometrics? Well, unfortunately, passwords, as difficult as they are, continue to be the primary target of attackers. And passwords are not going away. The reason is quite simply they're just too cheap and easy to implement. All I need is a keyboard and I can enter a password. So passwords are not something that are going to go away anytime soon. So we may as well sit down and may as well talk about passwords and figure out how best to use passwords in addition to other types of authentication. But interestingly enough, passwords can also serve as the user's gateway into this complex world of security. Passwords are the means by which users can begin to understand the fundamentals of security. And they're also the means by which users can begin to start feeling a little confident about personal security. I have a chance to talk with a lot of different individuals, and for the most part, most users say, I'm just really confused about security. I want to be secure. I want to protect my data, but there's so much information out there, and I hear things on the news just all the time, I don't even know where to begin. And I have found that by talking about passwords with users, that can provide that foundation piece, that floor, if you would, about the world of security, where the users can say, oh, okay, I understand, and maybe then I can move on to the next thing about security. So passwords kind of help users, if you would, feel confident. And I'm going to propose to you an idea that I feel like passwords are misunderstood by just about everybody. Not only by end users, but unfortunately, passwords are often misunderstood, I've found, by individuals who are in the IT profession as well. Maybe it's because we just take passwords so much for granted that we haven't really stopped and thought about them. But that's what we're going to do.
Hi there, hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also getting complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.